Stories looking at my gold box here. This is quite a special box, and it contains some of the special stories that Jesus told. And this is it's a bit like a parable. It's a bit like one of those stories that Jesus tells, but this is much bigger. This is God doing a new thing that very first Christmas, and it's told in a place that's a long way away, that's quite hot and dry. And it involves a wilderness over here. And it involves a town over here called Bethlehem. And it involves another town called Nazareth over here. So we need to make it nice and sandy. So we'll just spread that out. And it's a story in 3 parts. About what the new thing God was doing. Some of it might be very familiar to you, some of it might be new. The lady in blue is Mary. Mary had a quite exciting visit which started off our Christmas story. She was visited by the angel Gabriel. What do you think it would be like to be visited by an angel? I think it might be a bit scary, but also a fantastic thing to happen. And this angel told her that she was going to have a baby, and the baby was going to be called Jesus. This is Mary. But Mary didn't have to face this on her own. Mary had a cousin, a friend, who she went to after she'd had this news that helped her deal with this. Her cousin was called Elizabeth. Elizabeth was quite a lot older than Mary. There we are, we're back in the shorts. Elizabeth was quite a lot older than Mary, but Mary went to see her, and she spent 3 months after she had this news from the angel. And Elizabeth was going to have a baby too. And a funny thing happened. When Mary first met her friend Elizabeth, the baby in Elizabeth's tummy gave a little jump like that. And Elizabeth said, Mary, the baby you're going to have is very special. You're very blessed from God for this baby Jesus. Let me tell you about the second baby Elizabeth was having. That is perhaps the baby that you don't know very much about. This second baby was going to be called John. And there's a funny story that happened to their father. Elizabeth was married to a guy called Zechariah, who was a priest, so he's a bit like us really. He was a vicar in the temple. And he went to the temple one day and started to pray, like we pray. And just to his right, something amazing happened. An angel came and stood with him. And he was pretty afraid of this angel. And this angel said, don't be afraid, I've got good news. Your wife's going to have a baby too, the second baby. Zechariah was absolutely amazed. His first reaction was, oh, we're all too old to have babies. And that's the last thing he said. Because do you know what happened? That angel stopped him being able to speak. Because he questioned what the angel was going to say, he didn't say anything else. No matter how much he tried, nothing came out of his mouth. And the angel went over to him and he whispered, your baby is going to be called John. And they disappeared. So Zechariah went home and he couldn't speak. And Elizabeth had her baby and he still couldn't speak. And the people around Elizabeth, her family, were sort of trying to suggest names and thought that perhaps Zechariah, after his father, might be a good name. But Zechariah said, no, give me something to write on. And he wrote, the baby's name is John. And from the moment that the baby was named, Zechariah could speak again. So we've got two babies and 2 angels in our first story. We're going to come back to John, the baby, at the end. But now let's talk about a story that perhaps you are a little bit more familiar with. It involves a town in the hills called Bethlehem. Bethlehem actually means house of bread. That's funny, isn't it? House of bread. In this town, there's an inn with a stable behind it. And in this stable is a grey donkey. And a cow going to sleep. You know, cows sleep standing up. They don't have to sit down. And a sheep. As the night gathers in, two travellers come over the hill. One of them is about to have a baby. Her name is Mary. They come to Bethlehem and they come to the inn, but because lots of people are coming to Bethlehem for the census, they can't get in the inn, so they're very tired and they decide to sleep in the stable with the cow and the donkey and the sheep. Stars brighten slowly at night. From the stable comes the sound of a baby. What's that sound like? Wah, wah, wah. God has done something amazing for the first time. The baby Jesus is born, God coming to earth as a baby to Mary and Joseph. And they wrap him in cloths and they put him in the animal's feeding trough. It's a bit funny, isn't it? The world would never be the same again because God has done the new thing of coming to earth as the baby Jesus. Let's get back to the second baby. The baby that perhaps you might not know so much about. The baby called John the Baptist. This is going to be John the Baptist. When he's grown up, that's what we read from the Bible at the start of the service. What do we know about John from that passage in the Bible? Well, we know he had clothes made of camel hair. Do you know how itchy wool pullovers are? Can you imagine how itchy camel hair pullovers are? So it's probably pretty itchy clothing. And we know that he liked to eat strange things. I don't even know what he liked to eat. I don't know what he liked to eat. He ate them in the desert. He ate locusts and honey. John had a very special job. John's job was to tell everybody who came into the desert, and they came in their hundreds to hear him, about the new thing God had done with Jesus that first Christmas. A new thing that would change the world. He called people to get ready for what Jesus would do. Let's just go over our story and enjoy the whole story. We've got two babies at the beginning, both announced by angels. We've got Jesus being born in a stable, God coming down to be born as a baby. And we've got John, whose job it was to tell people about how this new thing that God was doing was going to happen. Which bit of the story do you like best, I wonder? This bit. Which bit do you think is the most important bit of the story, you think? Yes. That Jesus became, God became a baby in Jesus Christ, and the world would never be the same again. Learning and remembering this story is all about our preparation for Christmas and preparation for what God had and is doing in Jesus Christ. We're going to learn a little bit more about preparation for Christmas, as Ike is going to come and talk to us about some of the messy things we're going to do this week.